I have been using the KTR2 for a little more than a month now. The Dimensity 7300 based handheld is sort of a boutique item, bespoke item made by a very small team out of China. The original KTR was met with a lot of very stiff criticism, justly so, but taking into account the small boutique nature of it, may be a little too rough overall because the creator was looking to create a handheld that was his perfect idea. And while it had a lot of faults, he did continue to take in feedback and refine it. And now the KTR2 has been in my possession for a little over 6 weeks. And I can tell you that this has presented to me one of the best experiences I've had with a handheld. Now, I'm somebody that uses handhelds all the time. I've had so many of them that sometimes it gets lost in the sauce and it becomes less of an enjoyment and more of a like, well, what is wrong with this? And while the KTR2 does have a few issues that I could point out, I found it overall to be, for me at least, a fantastic pocketable handheld that presents a lot of power in a tiny package. We're going to explore my experience here today on the KTR2 and what I've found since I've been using it in the last month. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode. But here is my thoughts 6 weeks later on the KTR2 and where it stands. Let's go. So let's just get this out of the way. What are the issues with this? Well, for one, the Dimensity 7300, while a fantastic chip, is still not quite a what I would call a PS2 capable chip. Yes, it can play over 80% of the catalog, but some games are going to run very poorly. Certain games, something like Shadow of the Colossus, or my favorite to test, Jack 3, which can run at 1x at a decent pace. However, most people that are looking into PS2 want to upscale and do fancy shaders on it. And so, if you're looking for a PS2 device, my recommendation always still remains with a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 as sort of the baseline for what I call a PS2 capable machine. But that being said, the PS2 experience on this is fantastic, and GameCube is even better. The 3:2 ratio screen on this is a perfect balance for old school 4:3 content like the PS2. And while Anbernic's RG477 line has arguably a much better screen for 4:3 content, especially with its 120 hertz, I find that if you want to play a variety of games, including something like Game Boy Advance, which looks fantastic on this screen, by the way, then this is a good balance. There's a reason they call 3:2 the golden ratio because it is a perfect balance among all the many different ratios we have out there. Over the years, different retro handhelds always shipped with changing aspect ratios from Nintendo's 8:7 to the modern, at the time, 4:3 screen ratio up to 16:9, and now moving into things like 21:9. So it's an ever moving target. And the 3:2 screen on this, with its high resolution 1080p screen, is gorgeous. It is the same screen, or at least a similar screen, that the KTR one had. Now, while that had sort of a bluish tint to it, this one has somewhat of a reddish tint to it. Now, there are color correction software you can use to improve it, but overall, it does have a little bit of a warm tone to it that I found to be a little much. However, I'll take that high resolution screen at 3:2 over a red tint any day. Now, the other big thing here is that we're stuck at 60 hertz. I wish he could have found a 120 hertz screen. I've become so accustomed to it, especially playing 4.3 content on my RG477V or M, which is what I'd say also a somewhat capable PS2 machine. The 8300 is a leap above the 7300 and therefore a much more PS2 capable machine than I would call the 7300. However, one of the most fantastic things about this is that the creator of this has a background in thermals, and this thing can get ramped up without the fan kicking on and being loud, and it never got warm to the touch. I tested this on all kinds of software and was able to find that this thing never really warmed up to a point what I'd find to be uncomfortable, nor did the fan kick on too loud. In fact, some very clever people are investigating whether this can be overclocked in certain ways. I'm looking forward to seeing if that happens. Now, the fit and finish of this is absolutely fantastic. And when we come back from this break, I'm going to talk about why this is one of my favorite ever shells that I've ever held. We'll be right back. Hey guys, sorry after the video, but I wanted to share this with you. I used to think that 3D printed grips were the best, and I still like a lot of them, but my God, lately I've gone crazy with these TPU grips that AliExpress has provided me. I wanted to share with you guys because if you hit the link in the code below, you can get a bunch of these yourselves. I've got these for all of my handhelds, and they make them have better grips, like my Pocket S Mini here, which now has an even better ergonomics with the grip on the back. They go on easily. We've even got one here for the 477V here if you like it vertical. We want to thank AliExpress for being a partner with us and always sharing with us these wonderful items and codes so you guys can participate as well. I'm going to try a few of these on as I show here, a bunch of different handhelds, but these are really nice, high quality at a really good, decent price. They go on pretty easy. Look how clear that is. Just look how nice that is. And you can just easily pop the handheld into it like a glove right there. And now look, my 477V just has a nice coating of protected on it. It feels better. It's gripped. I've got one here for the Mangmi that I'm looking forward to. And we even got one for the Pocket Air Mini. Again, hit the link down there below if you want to grab some of these. We want to thank AliExpress again. Also, check out our new link for JP fans where you can order stuff directly from Japan. Back to the show. So yes, first of all, you can order this with a plastic shell, but I did not do that. I'm not really going to speak about that. My experience is based on this beautiful magnesium alloy shell. Now, previously with most metal handhelds, we've seen them use aluminum. And while aluminum is a solid choice and has a certain feel to it that I really enjoy, it's kind of heavy. This magnesium shell is simply gorgeous. It is gorgeous. It's light. It has a texture to it that feels fantastic in the hands. The evolution of this, as I mentioned, he has listened to criticisms, and we now have a small bump on the grip here, which just gives it a little more ergonomability while still retaining pocketability, making it a great selection for your pocket. The feel of the texture of this is just quite unique and different. It's something that I haven't really felt on other handhelds, and I can't quite stress just how light this is in the hands. It's pretty amazing to pick this up with one hand, especially after I've held something that's much heavier. It's funny, something like the RG Rotate Metal feels just about as heavy, even though this is heavier, but psychologically feels about as heavy in the hand. Now, I love the color choices for the basic unit. Again, this is a boutique offering, and it comes in a purple GameCube color, or the yellow that I have here, or a white color. Now, you can get some custom colors, and we started to see some of those out there in the wild, including this beautiful teal color that one of my friends picked up, and it looks so gorgeous. And the fit and finish on this, it's just simply stunning. Now, the overall design of this has retained much of the same design language from the original. We have the ports, the holes, the shape, pretty much in the same position, but there's some slight touches, there's some refinements that make this quite better. First of all, the D-pad on this has been greatly improved. Now, the great thing about this handheld is you can choose to have D-pad up top or you can have the D-pad down bottom, giving it versatility. I particularly went for D-pad down bottom because knowing that this CPU is not quite really a high-power CPU for high-level PS2, GameCube Switch, or even Game Native, I wanted to have more of an authentic experience with retro because I find that that is the best use case for this overall. This has a great improved sticks as well. These sticks are better. They're the kind of sticks that I'm used to. And as you can see here, I have temporarily put on the yellow Retroid sticks that I had on my Retroid Pocket, which I think looks great, but it does ship with the black sticks. But you can change these out, giving it a lot of versatility. They have a great range of motion. I have not found any issues with them. We do have a little cardinal snapping, but we might actually get something fixed here if we get Gamma on this thing. I don't know if he's working on this or not, but he did put Gamma out on the original one, so maybe we'll get Gamma here. However, it's still a fantastic stick that works very well for its uses. The buttons are also nice. They're not overly clicky. They're very quiet. And by the way, the most impressive thing on here is the shoulder buttons. Now, yes, if you are a purist and demand to have analog shoulder buttons that are stacked, this is not happening. This is inline shoulder buttons, but my God, they're quiet. They are so quiet and they have such a great curve to them, especially when you're playing something like Game Boy Advance, which uses the shoulder buttons quite a bit. I love the way these shoulder buttons feel. They're quiet, they feel great, they just work, they're pretty amazing. Now, while yes, I would prefer to have full analog support for something like Super Mario Sunshine, but that is not something I'm just going to play on here. Again, I think that this is a good compromise, and perhaps there's a future version, maybe, I don't know, if he could come up with a way to ship it where you choose inline or stacked. Maybe. That wouldn't change whether it's analog or not, but it still would be cool to have an option to do that. Now, the other thing here is the sound on this is amazing. It's a great sounding unit. We have two front firing speakers. The magnesium shell, I think, provides some sort of echo or something. I don't know. It just sounds really good. I'm very impressed with the overall sound of this. It is really pleasing. And yes, we do have a phone jack, headphone jack. So you can use that. Now, I want to talk a little bit about some of the things or trade-offs here that people may or may not be thinking about. I see in the comments quite often, oh, I would love that if they would just ditch the all-glass front. Guess what, guys? There's no glass front on this, not even on the plastic version. So if you don't want a glass front, you got one here. There's no glass front here. Just this beautiful magnesium shell, which looks and feels fantastic. So you do have that. This has an amazing battery also. The battery life on this thing is 6,980 something, and it lasts forever. Because again, this thing's cooling has been tuned, it's been perfected. This is a very optimized handheld for the 7300. Now, the boutique nature of this does demand a premium. This is the other criticism. This is not a cheap handheld, okay? This is about $280 shipped to you. But you're getting a premium metal shell, you're getting a 7300, which is a competent CPU, which may or may not be overclocked in the future to do more. You're getting a beautiful screen with probably the best ratio you can have for an everything sort of device. And it comes in a lightweight package that's pocketable, sounds fantastic, and has great hardware to back it. So, overall, I think that this is a wonderful handheld that overcomes some of the compromises. This is not a product for everyone. I realize that. But for those of you that can see the appeal here, I think you're going to find a product that exceeds previous efforts, has improved in a lot of ways, and yes, still has some issues. There's no analog sticks on this. The PS2 performance is still limited. It does not have a it has a reddish tint on the overall look of the screen to it. The overall fit and finish of it may not be for everyone, but overall, this is a pretty darn good handheld that I like a lot, and one that I find myself picking up and playing it quick. In fact, it's probably my favorite Game Boy Advance experience. Seeing Game Boy Advance on this full-size screen, and while not integer scaled, it's still, with that 3:2 ratio, a beautiful, beautiful look to it. And it's a high enough ratio that the integer scale is not as important as some may say. There is no ghosting here. The screen is improved other than the reddish tint. And overall, it's just a beautiful experience. So that's it. That's my take on the KTR2. It is not a perfect device. One doesn't exist. But it is a device that has taken the criticisms of the past, improved in so many ways. And the only thing that's missing, the only thing still missing, is the promise of software. We have basic Android right now, which is not a problem. I'd like to see Gamma on this. I'd even love to see Linux. But right now, we do have this very basic Android. But KOS is supposedly coming. He's presented promises and fulfilled them, although delayed in the past, so I believe it'll happen. So let me know what you think. What do you think of the KTR2? Is it something you're willing to invest in? Is it too much for you? Is it just not going to happen? I don't know. I'm very happy with mine. It is a great, great Game Boy Advance device. And yeah, it's a lot of money to pay for Game Boy Advance, but it's still a very capable PS2 device. Even Switch. It can play Switch. So, anyways, remember to hug your loved ones. I love your hugged ones because tomorrow's never promised. See you next time, Deadheads. Dead Fred out.